Actually, what we have and what I discovered in working on the Matthew, Mark, and Luke years ago was that Mark has to be copying Luke and not vice versa, as it's usually thought. And one of the reasons that I came to that conclusion was that Luke's gospel translates from the Greek text, his Greek text, to Hebrew much more easily than Mark's. And I didn't know for a long time why this was true. But then I began to discover that that Mark, in rewriting this material of the Gospels, same stories often that Luke has, would use a system of rewriting that is very much like we know in certain Jewish literary circles. They used a thing called Gezerah Shavah, which was you take any verse of Scripture and apply it to any other, and you can explain that other one. It doesn't matter where it is, before, after, it doesn't matter. It's a special kind of way of doing it. Now, what he would do, what Mark would do, he would see an idiom or a phrase or a word in Luke and it would remind him of something often in the book of Acts or in some of Paul's letters or in the book of James, and he would go even look up those places often and take words from that passage and rewrite the story of Luke or that verse from Luke because of his method, his way of doing it. This is to us a rather odd system, but it was a Jewish system in the period. And so the fact is that Luke retains, in any parallel to Mark, almost always, he retains a Greek text that is almost a literal translation from a Hebrew original, which I believe was the original story of Jesus. I think the original Matthew wrote the story of Jesus in Hebrew, and that's why I have had this kind of result. Luke's text, wherever parallel to Mark, is excellent Greco-Hebrew, Hebraic Greek, and so it translates Hebrew there. So now this is important to try to get back to your earliest your earliest words of Jesus, if you wish, because you get back closer to the Hebrew original of the way he spoke and the things he said. And we have many, many illustrations from this.
So the bottom line is that the text in the New Testament is a fairly reliable, or rather reliable, statement of Jesus' words and life.
Yes, when we make the proper analysis of our material so that we don't take Mark as a primary text, but we take Luke as a primary text, and often Matthew, wherever Matthew is not using Mark, he has marvelous texts. And so what we come up with is a conclusion that our story, if we use the right techniques, is a marvelous, well-preserved story that goes right back to the earliest gospel story of Jesus in Hebrew.